Welcome to the special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and celebrity interviews live from the Grotto with Greg Hanna. Greg, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing great, and I can't wait to talk to our next guest. One of my favorite actresses from way back when I was younger.
Absolutely. And we have I'm going to talk about, we could talk Weekend and Bernie's, we could talk Last Starfighter, Catherine Mary Stewart. Catherine, thanks for stopping by. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
I'm doing amazing. And can you imagine, like, when you think about some of these iconic movies you've been in? I mean, it's just like crazy to think about how they just last forever and people remembering.
Yeah, they seem to have had some longevity to them for sure. Or, it was like I think that what happened with like Last Starfighter and Night of the Comet is they found their feet in video in yeah, and became really, really popular for kids, that these were the kind of movies that they were allowed to watch on their own. And in some cases, they were like babysitters for these kids, and they got to know them so well and played them over and over and over again and became passionate about them. And then, fast forward to like 20 years later, and you're doing these conventions and you have these super fans that you never in a million years expected to, you know, show up. It's really, I feel so grateful to be a part of these movies for sure.
And they become communities. And we'll talk further about that. Go ahead, Greg.
Mm.
First question.
Yeah, it's great. So, did you know you always wanted to be an actor? Or, like, when did you decide? And
So, well, no, I didn't. I come from a very academic family, so it was this was sort of outside the wheelhouse kind of a thing. But my mother kind of recognized pretty early that, yeah, not so much an academic. I was very skinny, I want to say, when I was a kid. So she got me into ballet when I was really young because I was always pretty animated around the house. There was definitely a performer in there dying to get out. I hated ballet because it was so regimented. Then I got into gymnastics and she sort of tried art on me and all this other stuff. Eventually, she kind of tricked me into going into dance, into this dance class. And I fought her tooth and nail. I was like, no, I hate dance, I hate ballet. And we made this agreement that if I hated it after the first class, I wouldn't have to go back. Well, I got in there, went to the very back of the room. I was like, this is going to be, this is dead on arrival, man. I loved it. I loved it. And then the teacher brought me to the front because I was picking it up really quickly. And that sort of began my onstage performing career. My mother also, God bless her, got me into drama class in school, which I also fought her. I fought her on everything because I'm like, I don't want to stand in front of a bunch of people and recite Shakespeare, you know? But she convinced me to do it. I I loved it. I loved being able to like express myself through characters because although I was very animated at home and, a handful, I'm sure, I was basically really super shy. So this gave me an opportunity to express myself. And but I really pursued the dance. I was in a company. I'm from Canada originally. I was in a company called Synergy. We traveled all over the world performing. And when I graduated from high school, I was quite young when I did all that. When I graduated from high school, I moved to London, England, and went to this school called the London Studio Centre, which focused on dance, but it was also kind of a performing arts school. So it gave me, built on the little bit of drama that I'd already done and gave me a real good foundation for what I fell into while I was in London.
And you
So that's
talk
how I
about
got
your
into
academic background. That's
Mm.
surprising. And I guess the three movies you're most known for, you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
early
I
in your
know.
career, right? But you need that academics to prepare you. But kind of tell us what happened next in that process after you went to school in the UK? How did that develop into, you know, becoming an actor?
Yeah. Yeah, I was there, and they would have like these dance auditions every once in a while for things like cruise lines and stuff like that, which I did. But one day, on my way to class, I ran into a couple of people that I took class with, and they were going in the opposite direction. And I asked them what was going on, and they said, "Well, we heard about this audition for this movie. It's a rock musical, and we're just gonna check it out. It's open to anybody." So I thought, I'm gonna just tag along and see what happens. So we get there, and it's literally a cattle call audition. Most of the people were prepared with, like, it was a musical, so most people were prepared with a song. They, had their proper dance outfit on to make them stand out and all this other stuff. And the three of us kind of showed up and we sort of, you know, kind of hid in the background again. But the director saw me and he thought that I looked right for the lead character in this movie. And so he pulled me out and he said, "Do you act?" And I'm like, "Yeah." "Do you sing?" "Sure." And so I ended up auditioning for him, and it was Menachem Golan. It was a movie called The Apple. It was a futuristic rock musical, and I quote, set in 1994, because that gives you some indication of how long ago it was. And I ended up landing the role. And so it was a pretty serious movie. That Menachem, he was with a company called Canon Films, and he was really trying to break into the American film market. And at that time, there was, Rocky Horror Picture Show, Xanadu, that kind of a thing. And he was trying to kind of figure all that out. I'm not sure that he was completely successful with The Apple, but that's up to you guys to decide, I guess, the audience. But that is what got me going. And then it just kind of snowballed from there.
Yeah.
And I ended up moving to Los Angeles eventually. Yeah.
So Last Starfighter, that's one of mine and my wife's favorite movies. We love that movie. We watch it at least every other year, if not every year, once. So tell us something, about that. What was it like doing it? How much fun was it? Maybe some favorite moments or whatever. That'd be cool.
Yeah. Yeah. That was sort of a dream like situation. That was the first movie that I did in Los Angeles. And I was also on a soap opera at the same time. So I was it kind of overlapped a little bit, which worked out okay. What was so lovely about The Last Starfighter, excuse me, my nose is dripping, is that it felt very intimate. And I mean, Jonathan Batchel, who wrote the script, and Nick Castle, who directed, were friends, and they had this idea, and and they got the funding, and it was just everybody seemed very young and very enthusiastic, and Nick was such a wonderful director for younger actors. Lance Guest, who played Alex, he and I were, really not very well known. We'd done a couple of things here and there. At the audition, I remember, the Brat Pack, they were all there, but they really wanted to find lesser known actors, fortunately for Lance and me. And Lance and I clicked pretty quickly. I remember auditioning where we just, without the script, sort of in front of everybody, and they said, "We pretend you're at a lake, it's night, and you're looking up at the stars." And so we sort of made up this dialogue. It was different in the movie. It was a really lovely experience. It's funny because I've been emailing with Lance today. I mean, we're working on this project that we'd like to do together. So we'll see how that pans out, because it's the 40th anniversary of The Last Starfighter this year.
Oh,
isn't that unbelievable?
yeah,
Crazy.
I know. So we really enjoyed working with each other, and we stayed really good friends all these years, which I also think when you have that kind of great chemistry, it shows on screen, right? So it's a lovely experience. a favorite moment. I mean, one of my favorite scenes in the thing is at the lake, the whole lake sequence where I'm making out with the beta unit and he just doesn't know what he's doing. That was funny. It was so much fun. And then when he gets shot and there's like the sploot of this green stuff that comes out, and then you know, there's the whole chase scene and there's action, there's explosions. I love you, I love you. So it's like it had everything in it. It was comedy, action, drama, love. I love that sequence so much.
So for the fans of The Last Starfighter, what would you say? Why do they like it? Why is it so iconic 40 years later, still as
Yeah.
iconic? Yeah, what do you think it is?
Well, I feel like it was a very 80s movie, but it was one of a movie that the kids could really relate to, I think. You know, the characters were from Earth. They were, you know, humble young people going through what everybody goes through when they graduate from high school. It's this just crazy shift that you have to somehow figure out. And I believe that the audience identified with the characters and could put themselves in their shoes, you know, and it's such an inspiring sort of story that, you know, yes, he's just this ordinary guy in this crazy, crazy situation. But I think the message is, you know, you should reach for the stars because you never know what you might grab onto. So I think it's inspiration. I think they could totally identify with the characters. Um, and that sticks with you, you know?
It totally does.
Yeah. I also feel like it's for kids that are at that really critical time in their life, and to see it on screen is, you know, inspiring.
That's very cool. So I know Neil wants to ask you about Weekend at Bernie's.
Oh,
Gotta be one of his
the
favorite
Night of the
films.
Comet or Weekend of the Birdie. Let's go with Night of the Comet. Because I watched that later after it came out, like probably on video or something, because I definitely didn't go to
Mm,
the theaters. But it's a
mm.
scary thing. And so just because of my last name's Haley, Haley's Comet. So there
Comet.
goes something where comets, it intrigued me. But it's a scare, it's an interesting horror flick in so many ways, and it makes you think, right? And how
Right, for sure.
right. Tell us about your character in it to remind us and how that whole experience was of that and how it finally, you said, blew up later, not just off the beginning.
Right, very similar to The Last Starfighter. It's a different kind of movie. What attracted me to that movie was the fact that, you know, I did play a lot of sort of girl next door, sweet, innocent, virginal characters. And I love that Reg, you know, was an independent, strong woman. And honestly, sort of more like who I am. You know what I mean? So I could relate to the character a little more. And it was such a goofy kind of story, and and different. You know, it encompasses so many different genres, from horror to comedy to totally it is. You know, definitely the teenage Valley Girl thing was in there, but um, and the zombies, and while we were shooting the thing, um, the producers really kind of wanted to lean more horror. Um, and Tom Eberhardt, who directed it and wrote it, that was never his intention. He didn't want it to be like just a regular horror movie. He wanted it to have that sort of tongue-in-cheek sense of humor. So there, while we were shooting, we would shoot some scenes in two different ways, but I feel like so that we're so fortunate that, you know, Tom was able to stand up for himself and put out the product that he really wanted to put out, because it's so unique. And again, it's one of these, I think it's inspiring in a way, but it's also super funny. But also the fact that the two protagonists are female. At the time, I didn't really think about it, but that's been a lot of feedback that I get at conventions and things like that, like a lot of women will come up and say it was very inspiring to see two strong girls there were just girls, not super women or anything like that, that could take care of themselves. And a lot of the attitude I feel like in Hollywood is, the audience is young men, you've got to always have a male lead, and that's what you've got to do. But those are all men saying that, first of all. And the feedback that I get from the fans is guys love it. They love it. I mean, why is that threatening, or whatever the big cheeses think that strong women portray is going to be threatening or something to men? I don't know. At any rate, yeah, again, the whole VHS thing,
Right.
it really, there was a brother sister who came to a convention that Kelly and I were at, and they had watched it so many times they did their own like little stick figure cartoon book with all the scenes in it. They were so excited to see us because it was a huge part of their childhood.
I start thinking about this really quickly, and I'm going to go to the Greg. I think that they took the way the villains were of the zombies, kind of like what the Matrix was later. That kind of the way that I'm just thinking about it, the way that they were really more animated, more kind of funny in a way. How how in the Matrix, how they were chasing the stars. I kind of saw certain things, and that's what happens in movies, right? That
Yeah,
people
yeah.
specific points of certain movies, and then add later it comes back to life based on the director or producer or wherever, right?
Right, for sure. I mean, when you so I had that scene in the alley where I'm fighting a zombie, and it's like, he wants to eat me, and I'm like, oh shit, I gotta beat him up. It's funny. It's funny.
Yeah.
And I loved shooting that scene too because it was very physical. The guy who played the zombie was a stunt guy, so I felt safe with him. But I did all that. The only thing I didn't do was ride a motorcycle. I didn't know how to ride a motorcycle. So, but I did if there were any stunts, I did the stunts. And we learned how to shoot those little Mac 10s. We had to go learn how to do all that. It was so much fun. And again, Kelly and I are still really good friends. And and I'm still in touch with Tom Everhart. And we had a reunion about 5 years ago in California, and they screened it, and it was so much fun to see everybody again.
Have you learned how to ride a motorcycle now, or it's just not on the cards?
I think I'm too old now, but even at the time, I was like, wow, these things weigh a lot. I had a boyfriend back then that had a motorcycle, and I couldn't even hold it up. I guess, so delicate.
All right, so let's jump to Weekend at Bernie's. So I'm gonna ask Greg, did you see this in the theaters, Greg? I did.
Yeah, so this is what, like around 1986, roughly?
Yeah.
89, somewhere in there. Yeah. Yeah, I saw that
86, 87, something like that.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm just Weekend at Bernie's, it's just so funny, and it's so iconic, and specifically, and it's been referenced in things forever. Oh my gosh.
They're still doing it. Birdie is Joe Biden right now in some ads. I mean, it's just
I saw the pictures just the other day. Yeah.
I know. It's hilarious. It cracks me up. And the politician Bernie was Weekend at Bernie's. I mean, they really have milked it for all it's worth, I have to say. And as you say, it's referenced in so many different places, like from television shows to like Friends, what's his name? I forget the character, but his favorite movie was Weekend at Bernie's. I love that. Yeah, so that's so much fun when you see that,
It was a male cast, except then if you look on the list on at least on Wikipedia, you're right down on the list, right, as the first woman on that, right? So
for sure.
And Wikipedia doesn't do it justice for how much of the starring role you had in that. So tell us about, remind me what your character in Weekend Bernie's for people.
Yeah, Gwen. I was gonna go, I hope I remember the name because it was a while ago. Gwen, yes. Well, I can start with telling you about the audition process there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I was asked to go in and read for Ted Kotcheff, the director. So I didn't have to go through the whole, meeting the casting director and then Pat. It was Ted Kotcheff and Jonathan Silverman. So I guess it was kind of like a chemistry meeting or something like that. And I was excited because I hadn't done a comedy before. And, Ted Kotcheff, it was huge, as was Jonathan Silverman. I knew Andrew McCarthy was connected to it. So I thought, I can't screw this up. So I get there and it was really nice and everybody was super nice and everything. And then Ted asked us to read a scene together and I just kind of froze and I just screwed it up completely. And I was like, oh no. And I left there. I called my manager immediately. I'm saying, you have to call them. You have to ask them if I can come back and read again because I screwed the thing up. I was really, really upset. And my manager was like, yeah, okay. And the next day I had the job. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I was totally panicked for that. So, cut to a month later or something, we're in New York, which was kind of cool. New York, in the 80s was kind of a scary place. So being I was sort of naive and young and from Canada. So you could say that like taxi drivers and things would be like, so where are you from? I'm like, oh, I'm from Canada. They're like, where are you going? Well, I think it's just up the block. Where are you going? And like literally they would take me on the longest possible route. That was back in the days when it wasn't all, they have it all like figured out now where you just really can't take advantage of somebody in that way. It was kind of a scary place, New York, for me at that time, but I sure had fun shooting that movie. And then we moved to like Wilmington, North Carolina, which was supposed to be Long Island, and they just kept me. I didn't work all the time, but they just kept me there. They didn't want to fly me back and forth from LA. So that was really fun. And like I said, Jonathan was the sweetest guy. Ted Kotcheff was kind of a bear, he's like, he could lose his temper very easily, but in general, it was super fun.
Wow.
That's phenomenal. So what are some of your latest projects that you're working on now?
Yeah. Well, I have something that's sort of in the air right now. I can't say, well, there's a couple of projects that are sort of, you can't talk about because, there's NDAs and things like that and attached to them and stuff. So there's a couple of things. One is a TV series that's brand new, and one is a commercial thing. But I've also, like with COVID, when COVID happened, because there was so much downtime, I decided to work on a script. And I spent a lot of time working on a script that was optioned by a production company in Canada. Actually, we wanted to try to, I was working with a producer that I worked with on a movie called Mischief that I did years ago. And he wanted to make it a movie that could be made in Canada. So a Canadian production company optioned that. So we've been, fine tuning that whole thing. I just, in a way, it was like a very creative time for me. I mean, a lot of people felt trapped. I felt just like I had the freedom. I wasn't distracted by other kinds of work, and I could really sit and focus on scripts and TV show ideas and things like that. And directing, like I directed a short for a friend of mine. That's something that I just loved so much that I want to do more of that. So yeah, it's been busy. I feel like I keep very, very busy. I mean, I'm not really on a series or anything at the moment, but if somebody asked me what I did today, it's just like, I don't know, but I wish, a day was like 24 hours longer.
Yeah, there's not enough time. I think all
Yeah.
three of us would say that. And
Yeah.
because people that want to stay busy can keep themselves busy. And it's good to be busy,
Yeah.
isn't it, Greg?
Oh my gosh, yeah, definitely.
Yes.
What is it? What is this grotto you're in there? Do you have wine in
Right.
there? Is that your
That's my
place?
wine cellar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. My husband would be so jealous.
Yeah.
I love it.
Pretty
Yeah.
phenomenal. It was one of the big sellers of the house for me.
Oh,
Okay.
cool.
All
Yes,
right.
for sure.
All right. So Greg has his final question. This is the one that he's able to hit celebrities on the head to really think about things. We've been joking around all the time. It's not
Yeah,
about Bernie. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, but it's really
it's not.
helpful for for myself selfishly, and for audience and for Neil and anybody who wants to always better themselves. And I always want to better myself every day. And so I
Yeah,
always ask
for
this
sure.
question so I can learn from people, because
Mhm.
they leave clues on success, right? So tell me, Catherine, what do you feel is the most important thing in life you've ever learned?
Oh boy, yeah, that's a big question. But life has so many lessons, obviously, all the time, every day. I'm somebody who sort of lives from moment to moment. I'm not a bit like, oh, 5 years from now, I'm going to be this, which I get a lot of joy out of, just living in the moment. Um, for me, especially right now, I feel it's like tenacity, sort of sticking with it, believing in yourself. Never let somebody tell you that you can't do something or that you're not good enough. As an actor, you get that all the time, rejection all the time. And so it's so important to believe in yourself and believe, as an actor, also, we're our own product. And it's always, in my mind, a huge mistake to try to imitate what we think somebody else wants, because we're unique, and that needs to be celebrated and owned. But I think that can go for anybody, anywhere. Believe in yourself, believe who you are is unique and beautiful, and just go for it. Reach for the stars.
Great.
Love it for
Mhm.
sure. Best place people can find information on you, Catherine. Where can they go?
Yeah, I have a website, catherinemarystewart.com. Yeah, across social media, it's definitely Catherine Mary Stewart, or on X, it's CMS ALL, because Catherine Mary Stewart was too long when whatever, when I was like signing up for it. Um, Obviously, imdb.com really gives you the whole resume, right? And also, I think there are demo reels and things like that on there. So yeah, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, uh, you name it.
All right. Well, we appreciate it, Catherine. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right.
Thanks.
That
Bye.
was a special simulcast, the Neil Haley Show, and celebrity interviews live from the Grotto. Greg Hanna, guys. Take care.